People do not know what it means to be at absolute ease within their body. 95% of the people do not know this, unfortunately. Because you put the wrong kind of fuel, you can keep this body like breeze. Simply, it goes ahead of you, you don't have to drag it wherever you go. It must float ahead of you. You can do this just putting the right kind of fuel. Then we say about 30 to 50% of your digestion should happen in your mouth. So this part of the digestive system is expecting half-digested food or partially digested food. But right now the way we're eating is mostly we're putting not only undigested food, but partially destroyed food. So the amount of food that you need to get the same amount of energy has increased. You are eating much more food than what you should eat to generate that much of energy. Because of that, there is inertia in the body, because it has to process so much more food than what it should, there is inertia. Once there is inertia, your sleep quota increases. See, this is not that you must deny yourself sleep, that's not the point. But if you eat right and do a certain things with your body, you see very effortlessly, within 3 to 4 weeks, you can drop your sleep quota anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. 1.5 to 3 hours, very easily you can drop. If you just eat consciously, just bring 40 to 50% of the food in its raw form, that means it's alive. It must be a live cell, it can be a vegetable, it can be a fruit, it can be a nut, it can be sprouted gram. At least 40 to 50%, the food that you eat must be alive. You eat dead food and you want to live, this is a little difficult thing to do, because you have to raise the dead now. When you consume something, it must be of a simple genetic code in the sense, it must be a very simple software. Vegetables, fruits, nuts, sprouts, they're very simple. More complicated means animal food becomes more and more complicated. Suppose you eat an animal which has some amount of emotion and a life of its own. Now the code in that… we were talking about this, your body is just an accumulation of memory, which means a certain software, isn't it? This is the most complex software. Human software is the most complex software on the planet of all the creatures. So if you eat an animal, particularly a mammal, if you eat, it has a similar kind of complexity, maybe not as complex as this, similar level of complexity because it has thought and emotion of its own. Now for you to break that code and integrate it into your system, you are not fully successful. So it will leave traces of certain qualities within you. If you eat a leaf, a vegetable, a fruit, a nut or a sprout, this is much simpler. If you must eat non-vegetarian food, you must eat that which is furthest away from you. So generally, fish and water life is furthest away from you. Fish is the best thing to eat that way. Then what you put into the system becomes very important. So what is it that passes through the system with least amount of resistance, with least amount of, struggle in the body? So to put this into perspective, let me put it this way. See, if you eat raw meat, for example, in the human system, it will travel through this very, very slowly. Approximately, raw meat would take 70 to 72 hours to pass through the system. If you put cooked meat, it will take 50 to 52 hours to pass through the system. If you put cooked vegetable meals, it will take anywhere between 24 to 30 hours to pass through the system. If you put raw vegetables into the system, it will take 12 to 15 hours to pass through the system. If you put fruit into the system, it will take 1.5 to 3 hours to pass through the system. Food is the requirement of the body. If we watch the body with what sort of food, the body is most happy, body is most at ease. You will naturally notice vegetarian or plant-based food, body is most comfortable and is at ease. If it has emotion, then you should not eat it. This is the understanding. An animal which has any emotion displays certain emotions, especially if it displays emotion which is near to human emotion, you should not eat it because it will not integrate itself, that animal nature will start manifesting itself. Or in other words, in India, today maybe in cities people do not know, you see in the villages, people have very intimate relationship with the cow. They have drunk the milk of that cow, their children are drinking the milk of that cow. There is a very deep relationship. If you do not know this, cow is one creature. If something happens to you and you are in some kind of grief or misery, you don't have to be near the cow. Wherever the cow is in your house, it'll start shedding tears for you. You know, I've seen this with my eyes, I couldn't believe. When somebody is dead in the house, what does a cow know? It is somewhere, simply tears flowing. So when it has such deep emotions, if you kill it, it's like killing a human being, it's murder or it's cannibalism. So because of that, this is not a faith thing, this is not a religious thing. We thought this is a fundamental sense. Why, when we are hungry, why can't I cut you up and eat you? What's wrong? Any food which stays in your body for long periods of time is excessive bacteria in the system. You spend a lot of energy just to fight them down. And if it stays in the body, today there is enough medical science to tell you, in Ayurveda, in the Eastern systems of medicine, whatever problem you go with, first thing is they'll purge you, because a clean colon is a symbol of health. But the moment you're eating certain types of food, your colon can never be clean. There are issues and problems today. The amount of colon cancer, intestinal cancer is so heavy because one thing is they're eating food which is not suitable for the system, another thing is they're eating old food. When I say old food, almost anything, everything, if I walk into any store, what I see is any food you want to buy is at least a month or 2 months old. Still, in India fortunately, except in big cities, still, if we want to buy a vegetable, it must be plucked today morning. It is plucked at 6:30 in the morning, we cook at 8:30, 9, when the vegetable is still alive, we want to eat it. And it'll make a world of difference. Today people are talking about farmers' market, organic stores and works, but this is how the world lived 30, 40 years ago, before you business guys totally messed it up. In our stomach, without doubt, fruit is that which burns up quickest. So this means least amount of residue, least amount of tax on the system, least amount of stress in the system. So definitely, it'll make a huge difference. If you come to our ashram, all the people there who are physically immensely active eat 10 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening, 2 meals. How many doctors have been telling me that they will die of malnourishment, this will happen, that will happen, you must do this, you must do that. I eat only 1 meal a day most of the days. One big meal I eat and that's it. And doctors telling me, no, Sadhguru, the way you're traveling, this will happen, that will happen, you must eat at least once in 4 hours, something you must eat. I said, leave me alone, I'm doing fine. But now, a big university in America comes up with this called intermittent fasting. It's not nonsense, it's good, but they rediscovered something that we have known forever. Now everybody is saying there must be a 16-hour gap. Then all your ailments will go away. What the hell were we saying all these thousands of years? The simple thing is, there are many aspects to this, psychological, physiological. But now cancer is on the rise in the world. A cancerous cell is like a criminal in the society. All of us have in our bodies. Only if their concentration becomes more than what they should be, or they gang up and locate themselves in one place, they become like organized crime. There are pickpockets in Kochi, I'm sure. Similarly, cancerous cells are like this. Criminals, they're moving around, doing some damage. Their only problem is, right now, they're generally eating about 8 to 12 times more than what the other cells are eating. So if you just give sufficient break between one meal and the other, most of them will die because they cannot survive. This is something we've been talking forever. But now they've discovered it with $1 billion research. And I've seen hundreds and thousands of people who just become healthy and well simply because they're not fueling up all the time when the tank is filling. Empty stomach and hunger are two different things. Hunger means your energy levels start dropping. But empty stomach is a good thing. In the yogic sciences, today modern science also is coming in line with this. But what we know by our experience, you will spend $1 billion to come there. Because research is all about how many $1 million, that's how it is. Your body and your brain works at its best only when your stomach is empty. So we always make sure we eat in such a way, how much ever we eat, our stomach must be always empty within 2 to 2.5 hours' time maximum. Because any correction and purification that needs to happen in the body, your stomach needs to be empty, it's very, very important. Otherwise, the purification on the cellular level will not happen. You pile up things and then you have all kinds of problems. You must understand, the food on your plate is not just a substance, it is not a material, it is not a commodity, it is life. It is the life-making material for you. So, you must treat it as such. Right now, when it's on the plate, when it's out there, it has no value, but the moment you consume it and it becomes your flesh and blood, now suddenly it's of immense value. Why do we live like this? It's very important, when it comes on your plate itself, you must treat it as a part of yourself. With great reverence, you must consume. Just the way you consume it, if you change that, food will behave very differently within you. This is what consciousness means. When we forget how to live, when we do not respect what makes our life, the earth that we walk upon, air that we breathe, water that we drink, the very sky that holds us in place, when we have no respect and reverence for that, how they behave within us is very different. Today there is substantial scientific evidence to show that water has tremendous memory. If you just generate a thought looking at the water, the molecular structure of the water will change. Just a look, the molecular structure of the water will change. If you touch it, it will change. How you touch it is very important. So now for example, they're keeping it in a copper vessel with a flower on top of it, because this is the god. What other god? If you don't drink water for one day, this is the only god, no other god, isn't it? So, how you treat the water, the memory remains for a long period. So before we consume it or before it touches our body, how we treat the water changes the quality of everything in our system. This is a science we have always known, but today modern science has done enormous amount of experimentation on this. Now they're saying water is a liquid computer. The volume of memory and intelligence it carries by itself. It is a liquid computer, this is what they're saying, it's a fluid computer. We have always known this. What is called as tirth, why for one drop of water people go and stand in a temple, is because it has the memory of the divine. You want to take that into your system. If the deity is powerful and the water has touched the deity, it has the memory of the divine, you want that to enter your system. I know today everybody is drinking water from plastic bottles. If you keep it in a metal vessel, particularly copper or copper alloy, the very nature of the water will change. And traditionally, I don't know if it's still maintained in this part of the country, but in southern India, even now it's pretty common in traditional homes, where every day there is a puja for the water vessel. They will put some vibhuti on it, some kumkum on it, and there's a small arati. Just a copper vessel, every day if you have something, if you light a lamp next to it, if necessary, just one flower, the very way the water behaves within you will change. And when before you consume just one moment of gratitude and reverence, because this is the material with which you're making your life. So the water, the food, just bringing that reverence, you will see the volume that you consume will also come down and the way it behaves within you will come down. If you don't catch an infection, if you treat these elements properly, as I said earlier, most probably you won't see a doctor's face unless you're one.